Hello, hello. Today is day 267 of my 365-day raw suspending disbelief journey. It is January 14th, 2025, and just as a quick note, I am much more rested than I was. The sleep is going much better. However, I am still in this it's a little bit of a funk of just blah and extra tired and whatnot. And I am actually, this part of my cycle seems to be dragging out longer than usual. I am due to have moved on and have not. So not sure exactly what's going on with that, but we just had a full moon, and there's a lot of releasing and shedding that goes on around that time. And there may just be some things that I need to release, which means I need to slow down long enough to focus on them and release those things. So I am going to try. It has been, I will say, a little more difficult, especially last week and so far this week, to get up and do my early morning self-care, which usually includes that meditation time and getting quiet with myself. There's been a lot of adjustment just doing the different activities in the evenings with the kids, and back to school and back to work and all of the things. So trying to give myself some grace there and trust that, and just knowing that it will unfold as it's meant to unfold, and trying not to get too frustrated, because I can get impatient when I don't feel like I'm being very productive. So trying not to fall into that this time, because actually I think what I've really come to realize is, through this week and a half, there has been some realizations that have been coming out through it, is that while I did have balance before, and I did spend time being present with my kids before and whatnot, I really didn't have the level of presence with them that I would like to have. And some people might be like, seriously, like, you already spend more time with your kids, being present with your kids, than most people, or you already, I've worked from home since my oldest was very young, running my own businesses and all of that, specifically so that I could be home and be with my kids. Now, my first business was my day home, and I had, other people's kids coming into my home so that I could be at home with my kids. And in one sense, that helped me be a lot more present, because I was playing with the kids, right? I was actually really interactive with the kids. I'm very much, I'm a kid person. I love playing with kids and all of that. So I was spending that time with my kids, but I was also spending that time with other people's kids. And it wasn't just my kid one-on-one a lot, right? And that continued on past when I had Jace, my second, and really the only one who got mom alone to herself, right, once the other two were in school, was my youngest, Casey. And that was when I was at that point running my own online business, and had shut down my day home. And the in between there, before we hit that point, I was doing both businesses. I was, run ragged. I was working my butt off all the time, and really not spending a lot of time being present with my kids, even though I worked from home. I was physically present, but not mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, present. And then even when I let go of the day home, I was so focused on my online business and on the healing after splitting with my husband, and on just, maintaining our basic needs financially and all of that for that couple of years, that I really didn't spend the one-on-one present time with Casey that I always wanted to be able to spend. And with Jace, I was only on maternity leave for 3 months. And I was miserable and very, very depressed. He was colicky and all of that. So our one-on-one present time was not much. And with my oldest, sort of, the same thing. I was off with her for a year. I was very present with her for that year. But then once I went back to work, it was a lot harder. And then I decided I couldn't do that and I needed to be home with her, and it improved a bit, but it's always been this like, there's always something keeping me from the level of presence that I desire to have with my kids. And I've known that it's been subtly there in the back of my mind, right? Um, that I'm not quite as present as I would like to be. Like almost to the point of, and for years, I really felt that this was the thing. Like I just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't want to work and have kids. I just wanted to be able to be that present with my kids. And that never manifested for me. That was never a thing that I was able to do. And at this point, I love my business so much that I wouldn't even want that, because I really enjoy what I do, right? But um, I I think it really was highlighting for me, like, I'm in this last phase, and I don't know if I'll ever have another kid. I probably not at this point. I'm not even, I'm single. I'm, whatever, all these things. And I'm hitting the age where I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to have more kids. Even if I were, in a newer relationship, that wouldn't be the goal right away. And my kids are getting older. They're finally hitting school age where I will have like silence at home all day. And, with how much I am passionate about my business, that sounds like a really great thing. And, all of this, but this feels like my last hurrah, my last opportunity to really be that present with Casey specifically, before she's in full-time school. But even also like, Cadence is getting old enough where she doesn't want to spend a ton of time with me anymore. And so it's like my last chance to capitalize on the moments when she does. And my last chance to spend one-on-one time alone with Casey when she's not in school while the other two are. And, you know, really needing to find a way to spend that one-on-one time with Jace, at some point, somehow, some way, right? And I think what has really been highlighted for me over first the Christmas break, the 2 weeks off of work and off of school and all of that, was that I needed to be present with myself for more than just, and I know that it's more than a lot of people do, but for more than just that, like 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, in the mornings during my self-care. And I needed to be more present with my kids instead of, I had that original plan of like, I would be present with the kids, but I also wanted to get some things done in my business on the back end. And that just didn't happen. And it was because every time I started, I was really guided to stop. I would try and it would just be like, no, this is not the time. And, and then coming back now, it's been about a week and a half, and I really want to have my kids in these sports. I really want them to get to have extracurricular activities, and I can afford it now. But also, I'm realizing, like, it's really highlighting for me that even though I was semi present with them in the evenings, and there were times where I was completely shut off from work and just paying attention to them. Absolutely. I've always made sure that that was a thing. Um, they were limited, and I was actually spending more time probably in the evenings working than I even realized, because I'm noticing how much work I'm not able to get done when I'm running kids around to activities, right? So, if that is when I was sort of relying on for that to happen, that really says a lot about, whether I was really fully present with them. And basically the answer is I wasn't. So, and I'm trying not to be ashamed of that. I'm trying to just have that become an awareness for me so that I can really take a good look at how I want my life to look right now, what I'm willing to sacrifice versus not, as far as the amount of time being present with my kids, and what I'm willing to sacrifice or not as far as my business goes. Um, and how, if I'm going to be sacrificing some of the things with my business, if I'm not going to hold on to all of them just so that I can have more directly, deeply present time with my kids, how, if at all, will that impact me financially with my business? And, what things can I adjust to make up for that? So there's a lot to be explored there. And it is definitely not something that's going to happen overnight, although I have plenty of ideas stewing around in my brain. But I really think that's sort of the whole point of this, is this realization of I wasn't at the level that I want to be at. And that's not about shame, and that's not about not being good enough, and it's not about any of that. It's just about awareness. And that awareness helps bring about the transformation that you want, right? So I always say, and it's not a saying that I made up, but I always say knowledge is power. And awareness is knowledge. So when we become aware that things are not how we thought they were, that gets to be knowledge, that gets to be power in our hands, where we can then create something different for ourselves. So I'm suspending disbelief that I can make not only what I'm making in my business, but actually more money on less hours with maybe less things that I'm doing, although that feels awful in my body. I love the things that I'm doing, but, figuring out either a way to make them more time effective, so that, and I already know that I'm pretty effective with my time. So that one is why I kind of like stumbled there, because I feel like, how could that be possible? But there's always a possibility. So suspending disbelief about that I will find ways to make more money in less time, doing the same or less amount of things, and really, really dedicate as much time as possible to being entirely present with my kids, as in phone off, computer down, like shut down, all of it. And just listening to what they have to say, and being there for them, and playing with them, and connecting with them, and doing crafts with them, and playing board games, and whatever it is that they are into and want to do, and actually watching them at their practices for their different sports, like I always used to do before I started my online business, and not trying to work on business while they're doing their thing. And watching their faces light up when they realize that I'm watching, and I'm celebrating them when they do well, and that I'm encouraging them when they're struggling. And not, distracted and looking at my screen when they look up for that support, or looking at my screen when they look up to see if I saw their amazing wins. Right. So it's making me emotional. And I don't feel like I'm doing that all the time, but I think I was doing it enough that I haven't been very satisfied with myself about that. And I didn't realize. So this has been amazing clarity. And, and I'm really grateful for it. I'm really grateful for that awareness, and that, even though it feels hard and heavy to think about how can I make this happen, like I said, this feels like my last chance. And I know it's never the last chance, but it feels like my last chance to experience things in this way, in the little kid way, before Cadence gets too much older, and before Casey is in full-time school, and whatever that is going to look like for Jace in that in between. And that is what matters most to me. That's why I have my business. That's why I stayed home instead of working for someone else. That's why I became an entrepreneur. It is my top goal and priority. And so I'm excited, as much as I sound sad. I'm just very passionate about that being my top priority. And I'm excited to find out how that will look, without walking away from business, because that's not at all what I want to do. So, yeah. I definitely had sort of these leanings towards that, like really trying to shift my priorities a little bit. I remember in September, when Casey was starting preschool, having that realization of like, this is my last year where she's not in school full time. And, just, I've been noticing it for a while. And I think that, my guides were really, really had to sort of force me to stop long enough to be able to become aware of the level to which I do not feel like I'm meeting my own expectations here, and the level to which I feel I could be doing better, so that I can make a new plan and work with it and go from there. And I just don't know what that looks like yet. So, yeah, that is where I'm at. That's what I have for you guys today, and that is what I'm suspending disbelief about right now. So I will talk to you all tomorrow.